In a small, cozy house nestled on the fringe of a dense jungle, the Johnson family settled in for the evening. The wooden home, painted a cheerful shade of yellow, stood warm and inviting against the wild backdrop of thick trees and tangled vines. Inside, the flicker of candlelight danced off the walls as the family gathered in their living room, enveloped by a sense of comfort and safety. Mr. Johnson sat in his favorite armchair, the worn fabric soft from years of use. He read aloud from an adventure story that transported his two children, Mia and Jake, to far-off lands filled with daring heroes and wild beasts. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. The sound of rain pattering against the roof created a soothing rhythm that wrapped around them like a blanket. It was supposed to be just another peaceful evening. But outside, the sky turned dark as storm clouds rolled in swiftly, swallowing the last rays of sunshine. The wind picked up, rattling branches and sending leaves swirling through the air. Mia snuggled closer to her brother, her eyes wide as she listened to booming thunder that echoed across the land like a great lion's roar. The jungle was alive with sounds. Nature unveiled its power, and few could remain untouched by its fierce presence. "Do you really think it'll be bad?" Jake asked, worry etched on his young face. Mr. Johnson paused to glance at the window where shadows danced in the dim light. "It might get a little noisy," he replied reassuringly, "but we're safe inside." He ruffled Jake's hair affectionately before resuming his reading, though a flicker of unease crossed his mind as he glanced at the jagged outlines of trees swaying wildly outside. Suddenly, with a crash that silenced even the howling wind momentarily, a loud boom echoed through the night. A tree had fallen nearby, just outside their home. The impact sent vibrations through the ground, startling Mia and Jake as they jumped in unison. "What was that?" Mia squeaked, gripping her brother's arm tightly. "There's nothing to fear. It's just the storm," Mr. Johnson said with forced confidence. But deep inside, he felt a tightening knot of anxiety forming as they all exchanged worried glances. As if answering their unspoken fears, a rustling noise came from beyond their front door. It grew louder, intermingling with the thrumming rain and crashing thunder that filled the air. The family's hearts raced as imaginations ran wild. What if something dangerous had come into their yard? Mrs. Johnson entered from the kitchen with a tray of cookies meant for dessert, but found herself frowning at her family's alarmed expressions. "What's going on?" she asked, pausing to listen intently. "We heard something outside," Jake exclaimed. "I'll check it out," Mr. Johnson said bravely, despite feeling a twinge of doubt. Armed only with a flashlight, he approached the door as his heart thumped loudly in his chest, much louder than any storm outside. He opened it carefully, peeking out into the darkness. Rain poured down in sheets, blurring his vision as he scanned for danger. But what he saw left him utterly stunned. There stood an enormous lion in front of their house. Its golden fur shimmered under the soft glow of porch light amidst nature's chaos, and its piercing eyes reflected both curiosity and fear. "Close the door!" Mia shrieked as panic surged again within the room. But Mr. Johnson couldn't move. His mind raced as he struggled to grasp this extraordinary sight. A lion had wandered into their world, a wild creature seeking shelter amid a storm they themselves were trying to escape. The lion lingered just beyond the threshold, looking back at Mr. Johnson as if contemplating whether to enter or turn away. Little did they know that this encounter would lead to an unexpected connection between wildness and humanity. that would change how they viewed both animals and bravery forever. As the lion lingered just outside the Johnson home, the storm continued to build in intensity, transforming the once peaceful evening into a chaotic symphony of nature's fury. The winds howled like restless spirits, swirling around their cozy house and rattling windows as if trying to find a way inside. Each gust brought with it a sense of urgency, sending shivers down the spines of Mia and Jake as they clung to each other, their eyes wide with uncertainty. The rain began as a light drizzle, but quickly escalated into a torrential downpour. It pounded against the roof, creating a relentless drumming that drowned out every other sound. The familiar comfort of their home felt threatened by the onslaught of water cascading down from the heavens. Outside, puddles formed rapidly, and the ground soaked up the rain as if trying to quench an unending thirst. "Look at the trees," Mia exclaimed, pointing nervously at the towering trunks outside that swayed dangerously with every gust of wind. The branches whipped back and forth like wild dancers, and the leaves rustled loudly, some tearing away from their sturdy attachments and swirling into the air before falling helplessly to the ground. "What if one falls on our house?" Jake asked, his heart racing as he imagined the worst. "Nothing will happen," Mr. Johnson tried to assure them, though he felt his own unease rising within him. He stepped closer to the window once again, scanning the horizon and trying to catch sight of anything beyond the curtain of rain that now obscured everything familiar. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the jungle for just a split second and revealing dark shapes moving in the shadows. The children gasped as thunder followed closely behind, rumbling like a giant's growl that echoed through the night and made their walls tremble slightly. "Is it going to get worse?" Mia asked quietly, her voice almost lost amidst nature's chaos. "I hope not," replied Mrs. Johnson, as she joined her husband near the window, crossing her arms tightly against her chest. She glanced back at her children, who looked small and vulnerable against the backdrop of nature's fury. Suddenly, another loud crack reverberated through the air, this time closer than ever, and they all jumped at once. Mr. Johnson turned sharply towards his family. "Stay here," he said firmly, but with a hint of uncertainty in his voice as he moved toward the door, feeling compelled to investigate despite his worry. As he reached for the doorknob, another powerful gust shook their home again so violently that it rattled pictures on the walls. He hesitated for a moment, glancing back at his family with concern etched on his face. "Dad," Jake urged, "be careful." With a deep breath, Mr. Johnson opened the door just enough to peek outside into the swirling darkness. Rain lashed at him like tiny needles as he squinted through sheets of water. For a moment, all he could see was chaos. The storm had turned everything outside into a blur of gray shadows and flying debris. Then he caught sight of something unusual. There stood that magnificent lion. It was soaked but majestic, even in its dampened state. The animal appeared almost serene amidst all this turmoil, its golden fur shimmering faintly in flashes of lightning. Mr. Johnson was struck by a mix of awe and fear. How had this wild creature found its way here? The lion seemed equally curious about what lay beyond its world. Its gaze locked onto Mr. Johnson's eyes for just a heartbeat before it let out an uneasy growl that echoed slightly above the wind's howl. "Close the door," Mia screamed from behind him, panic rising in her voice again. Mr. Johnson slammed it shut quickly before turning back around to face his family, all of them wide-eyed with wonder mixed with fright as they processed this astonishing sight outside their home amid raging storms and deepening shadows. Muffled yet powerful roars of thunder rolled from above. The atmosphere thickened even more around them. Would they find themselves entangled deeper within both stormy challenges? Or would this unexpected visitor change everything they thought they knew about fear itself? As lightning flickered again, a new chapter began unfolding right before their eyes. As the lion stood outside, an unusual tension filled the air, thickened by the storm's unruly symphony. The Johnson family huddled together, listening intently through the pounding rain and howling wind. Suddenly, strange sounds began to emerge from the chaotic backdrop. A subtle rustling mixed with occasional thuds that echoed around their house, sending chills down their spines. "What was that?" Mia asked, her voice trembling slightly. She exchanged nervous glances with Jake, who had moved closer. To their parents, his face a mask of worry. "I don't know," Mr. Johnson admitted gravely. He could hear it too, an unsettling mixture of growls and shuffling. The lion's presence was palpable, its curiosity matched only by the storm's ferocity. "Let's stay calm and listen," he suggested, though uncertainty laced his words. Mrs. Johnson wrapped her arms around Mia and Jake tightly, as if her embrace could shield them from whatever dangers lurked outside. "It's probably just the wind," she said, trying to sound reassuring even as she felt a knot tighten in her stomach. But deep down, they all understood that something more sinister might be unfolding. With each crash of thunder, the strange sounds grew louder, sounds that seemed to dance on the edge of their imagination. Were they hearing animals seeking refuge from the storm? Or perhaps debris hitting their home? The possibilities tugged at their minds like shadows creeping into sunlight. "Maybe we should look outside again," Jake suggested hesitantly, shifting his weight from one foot to another. "Absolutely not," Mia exclaimed fervently, clutching her brother's arm as if it offered her security. "What if there's something dangerous out there?" Mr. Johnson nodded in agreement with Mia's concern, but couldn't shake off the feeling of responsibility. He felt drawn to understand what lay beyond their front door, to protect his family against any potential threat. With every crack of lightning illuminating the chaotic scene outside, his heart raced with a mix of fear and determination. "Okay," he finally said. "Let's take one more quick look, together." The family crept toward the door, hearts pounding in sync with the drumbeat of the storm. Mr. Johnson took a deep breath as he reached for the handle once more, exchanging apprehensive looks with his wife and children. Outside, rain drummed relentlessly against the ground, while branches crashed ominously in the relentless wind. "Stay close," he said firmly, before turning the doorknob slowly and pulling it open just enough to peek through the crack. Rain streamed past him like tiny rivers. It was difficult to see anything clearly, even as lightning illuminated patches of ground intermittently. Then came another growl, a low sound that rumbled in a way that felt primal and powerful. It was closer this time, vibrating through the air and ringing in their ears like a distant thunderclap. The nervous energy among them surged. They all knew it was coming from the lion that had been lingering just beyond sight. "What if it comes in?" Jake whispered, his eyes wide with terror. The gusts howled even louder as though responding to their fears. Mrs. Johnson clutched her children tighter, while Mr. Johnson remained vigilant at the doorway, searching for anything beyond mere sight. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a massive silhouette outlined by bursts of lightning flashing across the dark sky. The lion stepped forward again, but remained at a distance, watching them curiously as it shook off raindrops that cascaded like jewels from its fur. "What is it doing?" Mia asked in awe and fear combined. "I think—" Mr. Johnson paused for a breath before speaking softly. "I think it's scared too." In that moment of vulnerability shared between man and beast, amidst terrifying weather conditions. Something shifted within them all. Fear transformed into understanding. The realization that beneath wild appearances lay emotions that could connect them despite knowing nothing about one another. As they watched together from safety's edge, the lion's existence intertwined with theirs. They faced an unknown future where bravery might be required beyond simply confronting nature itself. What would happen next? They didn't know, but all held breaths awaited whatever twists this night would unveil. Just as the storm showed no signs of calming, an unexpected sound pierced through the chaos. A loud crash echoed across the landscape, shaking the very foundation of the Johnson home. The family jumped in unison, hearts racing as their instincts screamed that something had gone terribly wrong. It was as if the storm itself had unleashed its wrath in a singular moment. "What was that?" Mia cried, her voice rising above the cacophony of wind and rain. "It sounded like it came from outside," Jake said, his eyes wide with fear. He instinctively moved closer to his sister and their parents, looking for reassurance amidst the uncertainty. Mr. Johnson glanced toward the window, but the heavy rain made it impossible to see more than a few feet in front of them. "Stay here," he instructed firmly, though his own heart raced with both concern and curiosity about whatever had occurred outside. Mrs. Johnson could feel tension knotting in her stomach, equal parts worry and disbelief at how dramatically the evening had shifted. With renewed determination, Mr. Johnson opened the door just enough to peer outside into the tempest. Rain lashed against him, soaking his clothes immediately, yet he pressed on, scanning the yard for any signs of damage or danger. As lightning illuminated the surroundings in brief flashes, he saw what had caused the commotion. A large tree had fallen across their front yard, its massive trunk lying splintered and cracked just outside their threshold. That wasn't just any tree, he thought, realizing that it had been one of the towering giants which bordered their property, providing shade and beauty all these years. But now, amidst the chaos of the storm, it had been uprooted, creating an unintended pathway straight into their home. "Dad, is it safe?" Mia's voice trembled as she peered over her father's shoulder, desperate for reassurance. "Let's remain calm," Mr. Johnson replied, trying to keep himself steady as well as his children. Just then, they all heard another rustling sound, coming from where the tree had fallen, followed by a low growl that sent chills racing down their spines. Suddenly, out of the darkness emerged the lion they had seen earlier. It cautiously padded through the gap created by the fallen tree and onto their porch, its golden fur glistening in the sporadic flashes of lightning. The lion looked both majestic and vulnerable as it stepped gingerly into this new space, while simultaneously seeking protection from the storm's relentless assault. "Close the door," Mia shouted again, panic rising in her voice once more. But Mr. Johnson stood frozen with a mix of awe and apprehension. "Wait," he urged softly, trying to process this surreal encounter before him. It's just looking for shelter." The family watched in disbelief as the lion shook off droplets of rain, its powerful body contrasting starkly with their fear. This incredible animal now stood within reach, close enough to witness its wildness up close, yet far enough to still hold on to that sense of respect it commanded. The lion paused, glancing back at them with its large, expressive eyes that seemed to mirror their own mix of fear and curiosity. Here was this creature of the wild, a living symbol of nature's power, seeking refuge in their home amid terrible weather. Mrs. Johnson felt torn between fear for her children and empathy for this lost creature. What if it gets scared and attacks? she whispered nervously to her husband. We have to trust it doesn't want to fight, Mr. Johnson replied firmly, but quietly. We're all just trying to survive this storm. Suddenly, there came another loud crack of thunder that rattled windows and made everyone jump again. The lion's ears perked up at the loud noise. Its body tensed for a moment before it took an uncertain step deeper onto the porch. Mia's heart raced as she felt a strange connection to this magnificent beast. Something deep inside her told her that beneath all its wildness lay a shared understanding of fear. Their worlds were colliding in ways none of them could have imagined just hours earlier. Let's get away from the door, Mr. Johnson suggested gently, sensing that they needed to give space to this extraordinary guest, now seeking shelter with them. As they stepped back into their living room, a powerful moment unfolded. Their thoughts began shifting from fear to wonderment as they witnessed an unexpected bond forming under such extraordinary circumstances. Little did they know, an adventure unlike any other awaited them all amidst nature's fury. As the lion stepped cautiously onto the Johnsons' porch, the atmosphere shifted sharply from awe to panic. The powerful animal, glistening with rain and looking both vulnerable and majestic, sent a wave of fear crashing over the family. Mr. Johnson felt his heart race as he instinctively moved closer to his children, shielding them with his body while trying to process this surreal turn of events. Close the door! Close the door! Mia shouted, her voice trembling as she clutched Jake's arm tightly. The gravity of their situation began to sink in. This was not just a wild creature seeking shelter. It was a lion, a creature that could potentially be dangerous. Jake's eyes widened in terror as he whispered, "What if it attacks us? What if it gets scared and thinks we're a threat?" His imagination spiraled into dark places, conjuring images of wild animals charging into homes and causing chaos. Mrs. Johnson instinctively backed away from the door, her mind racing through all the worst-case scenarios that could unfold. "What are we supposed to do?" she asked anxiously while glancing at her husband. "We can't let it stay here. It's so close." "We have to stay calm," Mr. Johnson said, his voice steadier than he felt inside. Yet, even he struggled to fight off thoughts of how quickly things could escalate. What if the lion felt cornered? What if it decided to protect itself by attacking? The predatory nature of this magnificent beast sent chills down his spine. The lion stood still for a moment, its large eyes scanning their faces as if assessing the situation. Mia couldn't help but notice how its powerful body trembled slightly from the cold rain pouring around them, and how those fierce eyes reflected an unexpected intelligence, just like hers when she felt afraid. But fear was rising in her again. There was no denying what they were facing. "Should we call for help?" Jake suggested in a small voice as he shifted nervously from foot to foot. "Who would we even call?" Mrs. Johnson replied sharply before catching herself and softening her tone. "I don't think anyone would be able to get here in this storm." The storm continued to rage outside, thunder rumbling threateningly as lightning illuminated the room momentarily, casting eerie shadows across their faces. Each crack made everyone jump involuntarily and reminded them that outside was a world full of dangers, both known and unknown. "Maybe we should try to scare it away," Jake proposed hesitantly while glancing at his father for support. Mr. Johnson shook his head gently but firmly. "No, we don't want to provoke it," he said with reassurance that belied his own rising anxiety about their circumstances. The last thing they needed was for the lion to feel threatened or trapped. With each passing moment, they could feel tension building around them like an electric current, ready to spark at any second. The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily upon their shoulders as they exchanged worried glances. Nobody wanted to break this fragile moment where fear coexisted with wonderment. In an effort to distract themselves from panic, Mia wondered aloud if perhaps the lion might just want warmth rather than confrontation. A thought rooted in empathy rather than sheer terror that had taken hold earlier on. Suddenly another loud crack echoed through their home. A tree limb had fallen nearby, and everyone flinched again at its ferocity. The lion startled but didn't retreat. Instead, it seemed drawn closer yet conflicted amidst inside chaos. Mia gathered her courage and took a step forward toward this magnificent creature now standing so near them. "Hey there. We're not going to hurt you." Her gentle voice caught everyone off guard, as if breaking through thick barriers built by fear once more, invoking something deep within each member present. Would kindness change everything tonight? The family held their breath together. Could they really bridge that gap between humanity and wildness right before them? Would this encounter shift everything, transforming fear into understanding under such extraordinary circumstances? An adventure awaited just beyond sight, and all felt drawn toward embracing whatever lay ahead. As the lion stood on the porch, a strange and unexpected calm fell over the Johnson family. Despite their racing hearts and unease about the wild creature now in their midst, they observed something remarkable. The lion seemed more curious than aggressive. Instead of charging into their home with hostility, it hesitated, its golden eyes scanning the space around it. Mia took a cautious step back, but felt compelled to watch this magnificent animal as it carefully crossed the threshold into their living room. The rain still dripped from its fur, falling onto the wooden floor in little puddles that reflected flickering candlelight. Every movement was graceful, revealing both power and vulnerability. The family found themselves simultaneously captivated and terrified. The lion's large head turned slowly as it took in its surroundings. It sniffed at the air, taking in unfamiliar scents while moving cautiously through the room, as if it were exploring an entirely new territory. A shiver of wonder coursed through Mia as she watched. The lion wasn't acting like a typical predator caught in a dangerous situation. Instead, it seemed to be just as bewildered by its circumstances as they were. "Look at how it moves," Jake whispered, his voice barely above a breath. "It seems scared." Mrs. Johnson clutched her children tightly, but nodded in agreement. "It's not attacking us," she said softly, realizing that perhaps this creature was looking for solace from the storm, just as they were. The lion paused before glancing back at them, its expressive eyes reflecting confusion rather than malice. It stepped further into their home with an almost childlike curiosity, investigating with gentle nudges of its nose against furniture and walls. Its presence transformed from something terrifying to something almost magical, an awe-inspiring sight amid a night filled with chaos. Mr. Johnson couldn't help but observe how this wild creature seemed intrigued by their everyday life. The colorful pillows on the couch, the framed photos on the walls, even a discarded toy lying on the floor caught its attention for a moment. It sniffed at these items carefully, as if trying to understand what kind of beings lived here. "Maybe it's hungry," Mia suggested quietly, as she watched the lion explore their home with wide eyes filled with wonder rather than fear. "Should we give it something?" Jake asked hesitantly, his fascination growing along with his concern for his family's safety. "No," Mr. Johnson replied quickly but calmly, wanting to maintain control amidst uncertainty. "We don't know if it'll react badly or feel threatened if we approach too closely." Yet, even he could see that there was an innocent curiosity in this encounter. a connection that transcended being just human or beast. The storm raged on outside, but within these walls lay an unexpected bond formed through shared vulnerability. No one had anticipated that confronting fear could also invite understanding. Suddenly, another thunderclap resonated outside, rattling windows and making everyone jump again. The lion froze momentarily before glancing toward them again. Its reaction mirrored theirs, a flicker of alarm quickly replaced by calm curiosity once more. "Hey there," Mia said gently, feeling brave enough to take another step forward toward this majestic animal that had entered their lives so dramatically that night. "You're safe here." Her soothing tone seemed to resonate within the room. For a brief moment, all fear dissipated like raindrops evaporating under warm sunlight. The lion relaxed slightly and lowered itself down onto its haunches near them, its body language shifting from readiness to attack into one of acceptance. With each passing second, awe replaced apprehension within every family member as they recognized this extraordinary moment unfolding before them. Two worlds meeting amidst turmoil. One grounded in familiarity, while another roamed untamed across nature's vastness. The Johnsons found themselves hoping and praying silently. Could compassion bridge gaps where fear once ruled? Would kindness become a lifeline during such unpredictable storms? In this unlikely alliance between humanity and wildlife lay an adventure ready to begin. As they breathed together under one roof, each awaited whatever destiny might reveal next amidst nature's unpredictable embrace. Amidst the tension that filled the room, it was Mia's courage that stirred a remarkable change in the atmosphere. As she stood before the lion, a mixture of trepidation and wonder coursed through her veins. She could sense the fear in her family, the way they held their breath and exchanged anxious glances. But something deep within urged her to act. This majestic creature, though wild and powerful, was also vulnerable, much like herself. "Hey there," Mia called softly, her voice steady but gentle. She took a small step forward, feeling both exhilarated and terrified at the same time. The lion's expressive eyes met hers, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as though they recognized one another's fears. "Mia!" Mr. Johnson exclaimed, his heart racing as he instinctively took a step forward to pull her back. "Stay where you are." But Mia shook her head resolutely, her little heart pounding with bravery. "It's okay, Dad. I don't think it wants to hurt us." Her belief resonated with an innocence that only a child could possess. The lion remained still, its large frame relaxed yet alert as it watched Mia approach. It sniffed cautiously at the air between them, taking in her scent and the warm aromas that lingered in their cozy home. To Mia, it felt like an unspoken bond was forming in that very moment. The kind of connection forged under unusual circumstances. Slowly but surely, she continued to close the distance between them. With each step she took, the lion shifted its weight slightly, almost mirroring her cautious movements as if it too were trying to bridge a gap of understanding. "Look at how calm it is," Jake whispered to his mother, disbelief coloring his voice as he watched his sister move bravely toward the creature they had feared just moments before. "It's like it knows she won't hurt it. I can't believe she's doing this," Mrs. Johnson murmured under her breath, a mix of concern and pride swelling within her as she witnessed Mia's boldness. Mia's heart raced as she reached out her small hand toward the lion. Her fingers trembled slightly but remained steady. She was determined to show compassion where fear had reigned just moments ago. The lion lowered its head ever so slightly, nudging closer to her hand as if inviting contact rather than shying away. In that instant of interaction, the delicate brush of Mia's fingers against the lion's wet fur. Time seemed to stretch infinitely. Surrounded by thunderclaps and wind howling outside their home, this moment felt almost surreal. It was a brave transaction of trust between two beings from entirely different worlds. The lion blinked slowly, an age-old gesture often considered a sign of peace among animals. Mia beamed with joy and relief. This wild creature wasn't just a predator. It was living proof that empathy could transcend barriers thought unbreakable. As those precious seconds unfolded into eternity, Mr. Johnson stood frozen in astonishment alongside his family. They were witnesses to something extraordinary, a true testament to connection beyond fear. The air lightened around them. Wonder replaced worry while curiosity triumphed over conflict. "See?" Mia said with a soft smile directed at her family behind her. "It just wants someone to be nice." Just then, another rumble of thunder echoed outside, louder and sharper than before. That made everyone jump again. The lion flinched momentarily and stepped back slightly, but didn't retreat entirely. Instead, it maintained its gaze on Mia, as if assuring her that all would be well. As she lowered herself down onto one knee, the storm raging outside now forgotten, Mia whispered softly to the lion, "You're safe here with us." This simple declaration encapsulated everything they were feeling in that moment. Shared vulnerability amidst chaos, merging into something beautiful. The family collectively exhaled as they understood what was unfolding. A connection sparked by bravery in even the most unpredictable circumstances. Each member of the Johnsons began to lean closer together, facing not only their fears, but embracing an adventure born out of pure compassion for one another, as well as for an unexpected guest who challenged everything they thought they knew about wildness. In that sacred space, illuminated by candlelight and shadowed by rain outside, they all held their breath together, awaiting whatever came next. Emboldened by openness towards embracing life, whether intertwined within human or beast. As the moments passed, the storm outside continued to rage. But within the Johnson home, a different kind of energy began to fill the space. With Mia kneeling in front of the lion and whispering gentle reassurances, the atmosphere shifted from one of tension and fear to a sense of wonder and curiosity. The family watched in awe as the lion, sensing their growing acceptance, slowly lowered itself onto its haunches. The majestic creature sat there, its massive frame relaxed yet alert, taking in its surroundings with wide, expressive eyes. The golden fur shimmered gently in the flickering candlelight. And for the first time since this extraordinary encounter had begun, the family felt a wave of calm wash over them. "Look at how friendly it seems," Jake whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. He crouched down beside Mia, unable to take his eyes off the lion's powerful form. "It's like it knows we're not going to hurt it." Mrs. Johnson leaned closer to her children, her heart swelling with both admiration and relief as she observed the lion's gentle demeanor. "It truly is beautiful," she said softly, marveling at the creature's gracefulness as it turned its head to survey the room. It appeared to be as intrigued by them as they were by it. The lion looked around, curiously, sniffing at the air and glancing at the colorful cushions on the sofa and the framed family photos on the walls. It nudged its nose toward a toy left on the floor, a bright red ball that had rolled away from Mia earlier that evening. And for just a moment, it became clear that this formidable predator was also an animal of simple pleasures. "Maybe it just wants to be safe, too," Mia suggested quietly, feeling a connection with the lion that went beyond mere curiosity. "I think it feels scared in here." Her words resonated with everyone present. They began to understand that this wild animal was not so different from them after all. The storm outside may have been ferocious, but inside, their home blossomed an unexpected bond, an alliance forged through empathy and understanding. With every passing moment, fear ebbed away, like water seeping into dry ground after rain. The aura of uncertainty that once enveloped them began to dissolve into something softer and more inviting. The Johnsons found themselves leaning forward, drawn into this new reality where they shared their space with a creature they had once feared. "Can you believe what's happening?" Jake asked in disbelief, excitement bubbling inside him despite everything that had transpired earlier. "We're sitting here with a lion." Suddenly feeling emboldened by her brother's enthusiasm, Mia reached out again slowly, this time allowing her fingertips to brush against the lion's soft fur. It felt warm and comforting under her touch. She smiled brightly as she sensed the lion relax further into their presence. "See?" she said softly over her shoulder to her family. "It just wants some kindness right now." The lion blinked slowly at Mia, its gaze steady and calm, as if acknowledging her words. This simple exchange transcended language. It was a recognition of shared existence amidst chaos, reminding everyone present that compassion could be found even in times of uncertainty. As thunder rolled in the distance and rain poured down heavily outside, within this sanctuary room, what was once an overwhelming threat transformed into a source of beauty and magic. Each family member felt invigorated by this unexpected encounter with nature, a lesson unfolding before them about bravery, understanding, and most importantly, connection. Mia and Jake exchanged grins filled with wonderment, while Mrs. Johnson wrapped her arms around them, both protectively yet proudly. They were witnessing something truly remarkable. A profound realization washed over each of them. Sometimes in life's most tumultuous moments lie opportunities to witness magic when courage meets vulnerability. As they all sat together on their living room floor, gazing toward their new companion, the storm outside did little to dampen their spirits. Rather, it created an atmosphere thick with possibilities waiting to unfold. In this fragile balance between human and wild came hope shining brightly amid shadows cast by heavy rain. An adventure awaited, one built on kindness found unexpectedly amidst nature's fury. As the lion sat comfortably in the warmth of the Johnson home, the atmosphere became increasingly inviting, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. The storm continued to rage, but within these four walls, an incredible transformation was underway. The family, now feeling a sense of connection with their wild guest, began to consider how they could offer kindness in this frightening situation. "Should we feed it?" Jake asked, glancing at his parents with newfound excitement. He had been captivated by the lion's calm demeanor and was eager to nurture that bond they had started to build. "That's a good idea," Mr. Johnson replied thoughtfully, though he still felt a twinge of caution. "But what do we have that's safe for a lion?" Mia pondered for a moment before jumping in with enthusiasm. "Auntie, we have some leftover chicken from dinner. Lions eat meat, right?" "Yes," Jake exclaimed, eager to help. "And I think we have some water too." With that, the family sprang into action. Mrs. Johnson quickly retrieved a bowl from the kitchen, while Mr. Johnson carefully carried pieces of chicken onto a large plate, gingerly watching the lion embrace this new dynamic. As they set up the makeshift meal near where the lion sat, it watched them intently, its golden eyes gleaming with curiosity. Mia took charge and gently placed the bowl down on the floor, close enough for the lion to reach, but far enough away to maintain everyone's comfort level. "Hey there," Mia said softly once more, her heart swelling with excitement and nervousness as she observed how aware the lion was of their actions. "It's just some food for you." To everyone's surprise, as soon as it caught sight of its meal, the lion shifted forward gracefully and sniffed cautiously at the chicken before taking a tentative bite. A collective sigh of relief washed over the Johnsons. This seemed to be progressing beautifully. "This is amazing." Jake grinned widely as he watched delightfully. The initial doubts they held about having a lion in their living room melted away completely. Instead, they were now witnessing something extraordinary unfold right in front of them. The lion continued munching on its feast with evident enjoyment. There was a serene quality to it. Something awe-inspiring about watching such a powerful creature relax into contentment. As it savored its food and drank from the water bowl Mrs. Johnson had provided, an unspoken bond began to strengthen between them all. A shared moment that transcended fear. Feeling emboldened by this display of trust and vulnerability exchanged among them all, Mia took another step closer, with tentative excitement bubbling within her chest. She couldn't believe how beautiful this creature looked when it wasn't baring its fangs or growling, a stunning reminder of nature's grace. The calming presence of this magnificent animal gave courage to each member of her family. They felt more confident about interacting in this delicate dance bridging human lives with wild instincts. Jake couldn't help but giggle at seeing such an immense cat reveling in tender moments, often reserved strictly for domestic pets. "It really is just like us," Mrs. Johnson stated quietly, while observing how gracefully it finished whatever morsels were available on its plate, still maintaining eye contact without showing aggression. Just curiosity blended beautifully beneath layers veiled previously by tension, arising both within chaos, rampant yet gentle night unfolding around them. Mia smiled proudly at her family while encouragement surged through her spirit. This unexpected partnership held so much promise. "See? We can share kindness even when things are scary." As thunder rumbled faintly outside amid lumbering winds sweeping through trees bending wildly, they focused solely upon nurturing something beautiful transpiring indoors. All hearts beat together amidst rising connections, forming along edges where once separation dwelled. Could compassion pave new paths toward deeper understanding amongst creatures bound not only apart but together under stars illuminating flickering patterns overhead? In their living room sanctuary, where warmth intermingled alongside this divine being, every exchange inspired hope. Brightly amid shadows, encroaching closer surrounding storms raging outside. One shared journey between kindred souls, intertwined effortlessly throughout intertwined destinies, promising unfolding adventures, awaiting discovery down paths yet unexplored. As the lion savored its meal, something remarkable began to happen outside. The storm that had enveloped their world in chaos started to calm down. The howling winds softened to a gentle whisper, and the torrential rain turned into a light drizzle, transforming the heavy atmosphere into something more peaceful. The thunder that once crashed loudly now rolled away into the distance, and for the first time that night, the Johnson family felt a sense of relief wash over them. The change in weather mirrored the shift within the house. As the noise diminished, a newfound clarity emerged. The family glanced around at one another, realizing that they were not just sharing their home with a lion, but also sharing a deeply emotional moment. They were all vulnerable in their own right. The lion, seeking refuge from the storm, and they, facing their fears as it nestled within their living room. Mia, still kneeling closest to the lion, watched as it leaned back slightly, its eyes fluttering closed for just a moment. In that stillness, she could see how its massive body heaved gently as it breathed in and out, somehow evoking both power and fragility. Her heart swelled with empathy, not just for this magnificent creature, but also an understanding that perhaps the lion had been just as scared as they were when the storm began. "Do you think it misses its home?" Mia asked quietly, breaking the silence as her family absorbed this profound realization. "I mean, it's so big and strong, but it must be scared." The question lingered in the air. Jake exchanged a thoughtful look with his sister before responding. "Yeah," he said, his voice subdued. "Just like we were." He thought back to how frantic they all were when the storm first struck, and how unsure they felt sharing space with something so wild. Mrs. Johnson wrapped her arms around her children protectively, but also warmly. "We're not so different from each other after all," she observed softly. "Animals have feelings too. Maybe it was just looking for safety like we were." Mr. Johnson nodded in agreement, realizing how quickly fear had morphed into understanding, how witnessing the lion's gentle nature had opened their hearts to compassion rather than panic. "It really does make you think about how we treat others," he mused aloud. As the evening wore on and the storm continued settling beyond their walls, a quiet bond developed between the lion and family, a shared sanctuary built upon understanding and empathy. The lion's presence continued to calm everyone with its serenity. Perhaps there was a lesson to be learned here, one that transcended species. Mia felt emboldened by this connection and took another step toward the lion, slowly, carefully measuring her movements so as not to startle it. "I think we can be friends," she said softly, gazing into those expressive golden eyes that sparkled now with warmth instead of fear. To her surprise, the lion seemed attuned to her sincerity and leaned in closer, shifting ever so slightly toward her touch, nuzzling against her hand, as if welcoming this brave embrace between worlds untold before. The family watched in awe as Mia continued to interact gently with their new companion. She could feel a hum of energy pass between them, a silent agreement born of shared courage and vulnerability amid raging storms both outside and within their hearts. Just then, the last remnants of thunder drifted away completely into silence. They collectively exhaled as if releasing all tensions held tightly since this extraordinary evening had begun. In that serene moment of connection, illuminated by flickering candles casting shadows on walls surrounding them, as well as glimmers illuminating countless possibilities ahead, something remarkable flourished. The Johnsons realized this evening held promise towards evolving bonds with creatures roaming infinitely larger than mere existence hovered previously among them. A new adventure awaited, not simply shared between humans, but also with souls who roamed wild yet eager hearts blended through pathways less traversed when life presented both tangled storms brewing outside while radiant echoes resonating hope whispering everywhere. Embraced warmth, kindling ties, everlasting. As the night wore on, the storm gradually dissipated, and the sounds of rain transformed into a soft whisper, allowing the Johnson family to bask in the peace that followed the chaos. The once fierce winds had calmed, and the world outside began to emerge from its tempestuous slumber. With each passing moment, the oppressive atmosphere lifted, and a sense of tranquility settled over their home. Mia sat cross-legged on the floor, her eyes fixated on the lion as it finished its meal. The creature appeared more at ease than ever, its golden fur shimmering softly in the light as it licked its lips. The lion looked around with a tranquil curiosity, blissfully unaware of how profoundly it had touched the hearts of everyone in that room. "Look at him," Jake whispered, a smile creeping onto his face. He looks so happy now." "Yes," Mrs. Johnson replied, her voice filled with warmth. "It seems like he feels safe here." She couldn't help but admire how the lion had shifted from a wild beast to an enchanting presence that invited companionship. After a few moments, Mr. Johnson stood up and walked to the window. He looked outside as dawn broke on the horizon. Soft rays of light began to pierce through clouds, illuminating their surroundings with a gentle glow. With a heart full of hope, he turned back to his family. "I think it's time for our friend here to go back home," he said gently. The words hung in the air for a moment as everyone absorbed their meaning. "Do you think he will?" Mia asked, concern flickering in her eyes. She was not ready to say goodbye to this incredible experience and the bond they had formed. "He might be scared to leave," Jake added thoughtfully. "What if it doesn't want to go?" Mr. Johnson knelt down beside them, looking at the lion's gentle face. "We've built trust tonight," he explained. "I believe he knows we care about him. Just like we were scared in the storm, he might be feeling safer now that he's inside with us." Mia nodded slowly, understanding that with trust came responsibility. They had welcomed this creature into their home during a frightening time. Now it was their duty to help him return to safety. With renewed determination, Mia approached the lion again. "Hey there," she said softly, placing her hand on his massive shoulder, feeling the warmth radiating beneath her palm. "It's time for you to go back outside where you belong." The lion turned its head slightly toward her, meeting her gaze with those wise, expressive eyes that seemed to convey an understanding beyond words. In that shared look blossomed an undeniable connection. A silent acknowledgement of gratitude for their kind hospitality during his time of need. Jake joined his sister at her side and said, "You can do it. You're strong and brave, just like us." It was as if they were encouraging not only the lion, but themselves too. A reminder of how far they had all come together that night. Slowly but surely, Mia stepped back as the lion lifted itself off the floor gracefully and moved toward the door where they had first welcomed him in. The family watched with bated breath, all feeling an emotional swell as they prepared to say goodbye. With a final glance back towards Mia and Jake, the two who extended kindness when fear could have easily ruled, the lion stepped through the door and into the fresh morning air. As it walked away from the house, they felt an unexpected pang of sadness mingled with joy, a bittersweet farewell that left an indelible mark upon their hearts. As dawn broke fully over their neighborhood, shimmering light painted everything in hues of gold and emerald green. The storm, now just a memory, faded away. What remained were unforgettable moments shared between humans and a creature of the wild. Moments filled with bravery and compassion that would forever bond them together. In that peaceful morning light, the Johnson family stood close together at their door, united by empathy and understanding, and watched as their extraordinary adventure unfolded into new beginnings, both for them and for their majestic guest, as it disappeared into the jungle beyond. As the sun began to rise, casting a warm, golden light over the Johnson home, the family gathered in the living room, still feeling the echoes of their extraordinary night. The events of the storm and the lion's visit lingered in their minds like a beautiful dream that would forever change the way they viewed both animals and themselves. Mia, still buzzing with excitement, turned to her parents and Jake. "I can't believe we really had a lion in our house. It was so amazing." Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, reliving each moment in her mind. "I know," Jake replied, grinning from ear to ear. "At first I was so scared, but then it felt like we were all friends. That lion was just as scared as we were." Mrs. Johnson nodded in agreement, a soft smile on her face. It's incredible how quickly fear can turn into understanding, she said thoughtfully. I never would have imagined that we could connect with such a powerful creature like that. Mr. Johnson took a deep breath, reflecting on how the night had unfolded. When I saw that lion walk into our home, I thought we were in danger, he admitted. But seeing Mia approach it so bravely made me realize that kindness can change everything. He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. We often forget that wild animals have feelings too. They experience fear and vulnerability just like we do. Exactly, Mia chimed in enthusiastically. I felt like I could see it in its eyes, how it wanted to feel safe and loved. She glanced at her father with admiration for his courage in letting them welcome the lion inside. Jake added, and when we fed it, it really felt like we were helping it instead of being afraid of it. It's like we became part of its world for just a little while. Mrs. Johnson reached out to hug her children tightly. This experience has taught us all so much about empathy and bravery, she said warmly. We learned that no matter how big or fierce something seems, there's often more underneath, a desire for safety and connection. As they sat together, sipping their morning coffee and enjoying the warm sunlight flooding into the room, Mr. Johnson recalled how much this encounter had challenged their perceptions of wildness. We've always seen lions as dangerous creatures, he began carefully. But this experience showed us their gentleness and vulnerability too. Mia nodded vigorously. I think next time I see an animal outside, even if it's just a deer or something, I'll remember that they might be scared too. Maybe I'll try talking to them or just being quiet so they feel safe. The family shared smiles, filled with understanding and pride for one another. This night had bonded them more deeply than any other experience they had shared before. Jake looked out of the window toward the jungle where the lion had disappeared at dawn. I hope he's okay out there, he said softly. He is, Mr. Johnson reassured him gently. He knows how to survive in the wild, just like we learned to survive during the storm together. As they reflected on their adventure and what lay ahead for them all, both human and animal alike, they felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over them. They understood that their lives had been enriched by this unexpected encounter, which had opened their eyes to the beauty of compassion amidst fear. With hearts full of love and memories etched into their minds, they knew they would carry this lesson forward, embracing curiosity rather than fear whenever faced with the unknown. The Johnson family would always remember that night when a lion sought shelter from the storm and transformed their perceptions forever. An adventure woven into their lives through kindness and bravery. As the Johnson family gathered together in the glow of the morning sun, reflecting on the events of the previous night, they could already sense that this experience would remain with them forever. It wasn't just about having a lion in their home. It was about all the emotions they had navigated, the fear, the awe, and ultimately, the compassion that flourished amidst such an unexpected situation. Mia looked out toward the jungle where the lion had disappeared, feeling a rush of gratitude. She understood now that animals are not just wild creatures to be feared, but are capable of feeling vulnerability and fear themselves. I think I'll always remember how brave we were together, she shared with her family, her voice filled with pride. Every family member nodded in agreement, each one touched differently by their encounter with the lion. Jake commented thoughtfully, "It's like we became a team, all of us. We helped each other face something scary." He recognized how their collective courage in that moment allowed them to embrace an extraordinary situation rather than shy away from it. Mrs. Johnson chimed in, her heart warmed by these reflections. That's right. Sometimes the scariest things can lead to the most beautiful moments. We learned that kindness can transform fear into understanding. She couldn't believe how true that statement had proven over the course of one chaotic evening. The revelation resonated with everyone around her. And empathy, Mr. Johnson added thoughtfully, feeling proud of how his children had handled everything. We realized that showing empathy towards a creature like a lion can lead to breaking down walls between humans and wildlife. His heart swelled with admiration for Mia's bravery when she approached the lion, turning what could have been an unfortunate encounter into a lesson on compassion that all of them would carry forward. He turned to his family, who were still visibly buzzing with excitement about their unique adventure. It's important to remember that our actions can shape experiences for ourselves and others, be it humans or animals. The lessons drawn from this wild night would undoubtedly influence how they interacted with all beings from then on. Their conversation shifted as they discussed ways they could get involved in local wildlife conservation efforts. Ideas grew from that single encounter in their home as they considered how to support and respect the creatures that shared this planet with them. As they sipped warm cups of coffee and settled into their cozy kitchen, they also felt a deeper sense of unity among themselves. After sharing such a transformative experience, they were more than just a family living together. They were companions on a remarkable journey filled with newfound strength in each other while embracing their interconnectedness with nature at large. Maybe we can take a trip to see animals in the wild one day, Mia suggested excitedly. And then we could really learn how they live. That's a great idea, Jake exclaimed, as visions of adventure danced between them in celebration of what lay ahead. They would cherish memories made through understanding and allow curiosity to lead future endeavors. The Johnsons took one last look outside at the brightening sky over the gentle jungle, feeling warmth spreading through their hearts. They knew this night had changed their views on fear and bravery tremendously and would shape future encounters, both wild and domestic, as they stepped further into understanding and compassion. In unison, they made a promise to approach life boldly, nurturing connection and acceptance wherever possible, so they might see past fear into realms filled with kindness, united by experience. It was clear. Sometimes nature is not just about beauty or danger. It also gifts every moment transformed through love, reaching beyond differences, paving paths toward friendships forged through kindness, even in life's most unpredictable storms.